Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's reading. Okay, so my name is Amara Chukwuchimeka. I host Shell's Versation, a book talk / reading event here every second Saturday of the month. And today, the book we're going to be reading is a Handbook of Rebranding Nigeria, an Anthology of Context, Critical Analysis and Counsel, Volume 1. It is edited by Ofuma G, Agali and Temilade Abimbola, PhD. We're just going to go straight into the conversation. I'd like to call the author present. The other author is joining us via Zoom. Good afternoon, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, it's nice to meet you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, so welcome to this conversation. Sir, I'd like to call you forward. Please put your hands together as we welcome Ofuma G, Agali.
Thank you.
Put your hands together. Please do that. Okay. Can I get a mic for him, please?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon again, everyone. Right. So this book is a very interesting book. It has an interesting title. Interesting because we're in a country where everybody is especially tired, and as Gen Zs or younger people will say, it's all vibes and inshallah, Why would anybody bother about branding Nigeria? Right? So I'd like you to share the thoughts why, and ma'am, I'm also going to hear from you. Why was it necessary to write or to collect these articles together and put it up together in this book?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having us. Good afternoon, Prof, my able co-editor. Amaka,
Good afternoon.
thank you very much. So Amaka, just to correct something, we are not the authors. We are the editors. There are about 59 articles here, 59 essays contributed by about 56 authors. So we just collected and edited. Yeah. So why we put this book together is to preserve narratives that have come forth regarding Nigeria's efforts at rebranding herself. First, we focus on the external rebranding, that's those rebranding that is meant to enhance our image abroad or our image outside the country. So we've had the Heart of Africa project between 2005 and 2006. And then we have the Good People, Great Nation campaign between 2008 and 2010, which was the most popular. Many Nigerians were able to relate with that. Then we also had the less popular ones. We had Fascinating Nigeria, we had Nigeria My Heritage, right? And all these campaigns had several activities around them, lots of resources pumped into them, but it didn't seem like they met the objectives for which they set out to achieve. However, Nigerians were watching and people were talking. And then media people, marketing communication practitioners, elder statesmen, academics, public affairs analysts, they were all talking. They were looking at the activities, what happened, how it happened, what went wrong, what could have been better, and then they profiled solutions. However, majority of these articles were published in the media. I know the media is like a flowing ocean. Every morning there is something new, and then it's easy to forget what happened in the media yesterday. Yet, these narratives actually did if you put them together, not in their individual strength, but in their collective strength, if you put them together, they did a lot of justice to that rebranding Nigeria effort. We thought that it was necessary to collect them, put them together in one basket, make it accessible to the public, to the Nigerian government, and to anyone who is interested in those narratives from historical perspectives and from the perspective of the fact that we are where we are today. We were yesterday, we were there, we are here today, and we need something to remind us that there is somewhere that we need to be. And these narratives, as old as some of them are in this book, when you read them, they still sound like this morning. So how do we then begin the affirmative action that we need if we have forgotten all of the things that were said? So this is the reason why this was put together. And we've had this now as the first volume and hoping to get a second volume, which is now going to capture voices of the present and voices that will project into the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Dr. Abimbola. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Hello, my dear.
Okay, ma'am. So I'm also wondering, this process started in 2009 from your preface.
Yes.
What was the process like collecting essays and articles over the years? Because if a child was born in 2009, that child should be about maybe 16, 17-ish now, thereabouts. Right. So, how were you able to keep or safeguard your collections over the years? And then how did you even collect them? Did you just go save articles that were published, or did you put out a call? Because when you read the articles, they're not so lengthy, which is a good thing, right? So I want to just walk us through the process of.
All right, Prof. She sounded like she was directing that to you, but I think I should take that.
I can actually hear her. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. It's thank you, which is really a great opportunity to sort of dig a little bit deeper into collective history, kind of. I think I should say, I wish you had seen a copy of the message that Akin Adeoye had presented on the day of the book launch, in which Akin Adeoye had made a succinct background statement on the impetus for this particular book. Of course, Ofuma was editor working within Akin Adeoye's environment. So the context of it was the major project, as Ofuma has already said. And I and three of us from here, in fact, I saw Sven Hollison, the Norwegian, who was with us for an event with M2 Marketing then, a part of which the discussion was on the branding the context of what is here. That gave the, if you like, the link between myself and the team at Akin Adeoye's shop then, and of course my co-editor, who had contacted me while I was still in the university. What really brought it to mind was, as he has already narrated, was the project Nigeria was actively, because if you don't know you need something, you will not make any active move to do something about it. So that Nigeria is very aware of its own internal challenges. And I mean Nigeria in collective terms, from the leadership to in the different stakeholders. So we are quite aware of some of these challenges. They've always been there in different form. So around that time, it was based on the project that Madam late Professor Akuyinle was handling in our role as the Minister of Communication. But what gave impetus to these was quite a lot of well-meaning projects, other sub-projects or articles, opinions that were already out there, and there was no way of making them available in a form that can give a coherent analysis. And that is the job that I must say Ofuma was able to sit on in his role as the editor, who has seen quite a lot of these articles, had worked on the actual project during the active period of implementation. I must say, having had it since 2009, it's been incubating ever since, because we only came to Nigeria for a week. I think we were there for a week, and incubating or curating, I should say, the articles were something of a love project. And I meant it to be, the what we all as citizens of our country should be doing, the love of our country. What can we do we cannot be complaining forever, complaining. Yes, and rightly so. So what can we do about it? And that's the point of these collective articles. Like Ofuma said, it's not a lone voice and it's not a dual voice. It's a collective voice that we say, if you want to spring forward, where should we start from? And that's why it is a handbook. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to come back to Ofuma to help us take us into the text. We'd like for you to do a bit of reading from the book so we understand what this book is about and why it's important that we're talking about it. So, sir, please do us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Amara, okay. So the book is just for a breakdown of how it is assembled. The book is broken down into 10 parts. And so you see the first part dealt with what did Nigeria look like at the beginning. Not Nigeria with the name Nigeria, but what did that geographical area look like? How did it come about? Then in part 2, we begin to see narratives around amalgamation. And we all know as Nigerians the significance of amalgamation in our national life. Then in part 3, we dwell on the independence, what were the factors, the influences, and the prevailing circumstances as at independence, and how they now began to form a foundation of what we are now experiencing today as a nation. Then in part 4, we begin to go into the theoretical narratives around nation branding as a discipline, and then, dovetailing into Brand Nigeria as well. In part 5, we talk about the Heart of Africa campaign, which was championed by the information ministers at the time, Chukwuemeka Chikelu, and then later Frank Wike Jr. Then in part 6, which is one of the largest, we have the Good People, Great Nation. That was actually where this book started from, because the campaign received a lot of attention, and Professor Abimbola mentioned M2 magazine, where I was an editor at the time. And then we had this section in the magazine that we call the Great Rebranding Nigeria campaign. So articles were coming in every week for about 2 months. So after some time, you begin to see a real body of narratives which would speak well if we put them together. So that was where that started from. Then in part 7, we have a couple of articles on Fascinating Nigeria. Then in part 8, the title there is Further Rebranding Perspectives. Not necessarily speaking to any of these campaigns, but speaking to various issues that border on the Nigeria brand, things that affect the Nigerian brand and the Nigerian realities. Then we also have Brand Nigeria realities going further into these realities. Then in part 10, which is a little bit prescriptive, where you have articles that are saying, this is what we need to do, this is how we do it, you find them there. So because there's a lot here, I'm going to take reading from I'm going to take excerpt from an essay that dwelt on amalgamation, and then another one on independence, and then the last one on branding, branding that dwelt on the coming from the position of differentiation to actually brand and get significance from that branding.
Okay, so before you start to read, welcome to people who walked in while we were speaking. This is Shell Conversations, and we're discussing Handbook of Rebranding Nigeria. He's about to read excerpts from the book. Copies are available behind, just in case, so you can go pick up copies and be part of the reading and conversation. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Amara. So I'm reading now from chapter 4, found on page 22. It's titled Rethinking the Amalgamation of 1914, and it's written by Malcolm Fabi. Malcolm Fabi is a Nigerian academic based in the US. So I'll start from the second paragraph. There is no question that the amalgamation of 1914 was intended to benefit the British. Its goal was solely to reduce colonial administration costs by consolidating the two civil service operations of the Northern and Southern Protectorates into one. Lugard, the architect of amalgamation, was an unapologetic advocate of colonial grandeur and a fervent believer in British imperialism. Lugard served as a colonial administrator in Nigeria, Hong Kong, and Uganda, spreading his imperialist ideas and dutifully serving his queen wherever he went. Like most of the colonial actors of that period, Lugard was insultingly paternalistic. In his book, The Dual Mandate in the British Tropical Africa, Lugard likened the virtues and defects of this race type, that is Africans, to those of attractive children. If there were any benefits that would accrue to the new Nigerians, those gains would be merely incidental. To attempt to interpret Lugard's action in one other way will not be supported by the facts. However, the fact that the amalgamation was not instituted in the interest of Nigerians at heart does not imply that there was nothing about amalgamation that could benefit the inhabitants of the newly formed nation that became known as Nigeria. Was there anything about the amalgamation of 1914 that enhanced any movement towards unity that Nigerians were themselves already working towards? Were there any attempts by the people of the lands now known as Nigeria to forge unions through peaceful engagements or conquest with each other prior to Lugard's action? Nigeria made sense to the British for three primary reasons that motivate all expansionist conquests. The first is that the Nigerian nation offered lands that were rich in minerals, superbly arable, and fit for agriculture and animal husbandry, as well as rivers and oceans that teemed with aquatic bounties. The second is that the Nigerian nation offered inland waterways and unfettered access to the seas that allowed for the movement of persons and goods. Thirdly, Nigeria offered an abundance of hardworking and enterprising people who would transform the factors of production with which Nigeria was abundantly blessed into products and services that could be sold and taxed. The North had ample land and mineral resources spanning these vegetation types, the Sahel, the Sudan, and the Guinea savanna. The North lands could sustain the diverse variety of crops, grains, cereals, cotton, and legumes could be farmed in Sahel and Sudan savanna regions. Yams and fruit crops were especially suited to the Guinea savanna. The extensive grassland of the north and its dry, low humidity climate were excellent for cattle rearing. The South had land that was particularly suited to farming of yams, cassava, and oil palms. Its forest offered an abundance of timber and jute, and its lands were especially conducive to growing cash crops like cocoa. The South also had an abundance of coal, a fuel necessary for providing the energy to be used for transportation and manufacturing. While the North offered land, mineral, and people, it had no access to the ocean, and the South had an abundance of enterprising citizens but did not have the diversity of lands and climes that the North offered. By amalgamating the Northern and Southern protectorates, Lugard could consolidate the disparate benefits that these two protectorates offered. By consolidating the colonial civil service into one and reducing administrative costs, Lugard was able to obtain what modern productivity experts would call synergies. That is, benefits that provide higher gains than would have been obtained by a simple addition of the benefit offered by the sum of the parts. What Lugard and the British saw over a century ago has not changed. If anything, in the intervening century, Nigeria has become much more viable, has become a much more viable proposition. It turns out that the North does not only have tin and columbine, but its land also contains enormous reserves of iron ore, tantalite, that is the source of tantalum, which is a major component of capacitors used in our cell phones, laptops, and other devices today. The South, it has since discovered, has an abundance of oil, gas, bitumen, gold, in addition to coal. Apart from oil and gas, most of these mineral resources remain largely untapped and underutilized. While it is proper to credit Lugard with the amalgamation of Northern and Southern protectorates, it is wrong to ascribe to Lugard the original idea of Nigerian unification. Long before Lugard stepped foot in Nigeria, Nigerians had looked across the twin rivers, the Niger and the Benue, and imagined the unification of the tribes in other side of the divide. Lugard was a century away from setting foot in Nigeria when Usman Dan Fodio launched a jihad in 1804, which was aimed, among other things, at extending Hausa Fulani hegemony across all of Nigeria. About 400 years before Dan Fodio jihad of the 1800s, Yoruba had occupied Nupe in the heart of the Middle Belt in a wave of expansion of the Oyo Empire. Yoruba mythology suggests that the deified Yoruba king Shango, son of Oramiyan, was born to a Nupe princess. While the Igbo was historically a largely republican people who spawned empire building, their cultural and economic influence extended well beyond their southeastern enclave to reach the southern extremities of Nigeria. Like other Nigerian tribes, the Igbo also have a strong origin that includes stories of migration from the Upper Egypt region of northern Africa. Ethnic admixture, cultural exchange, trans-border migration of people and products has long been a part of the DNA of the people that inhabit the land called Nigeria. All these facts make a strong case that the original idea for the possibility of interchange, admixture, and unity of the peoples of Nigerian nation was initiated historically by Nigerians themselves, sometimes through trade, but also by conquest. Lugard's amalgamation, therefore, was no more than a convenient fast-tracking of a project that Nigeria had themselves set in motion over 500 years earlier. By the time of the amalgamation, Nigeria was probably well on its way to unification through conquest by Hausa Fulani. Danfodio's jihad had already claimed most of the Cornwalls, the large swaths of the Nigerian Middle Belt, including Nupe Land, Aochi in Benin Empire, Ilorin, the Kogi Highlands, and the old Oyo in the Oyo Empire. The truncation of that possible historical pathway by the British implies that we will never know what Nigeria could have been had Danfodio's army swept towards the sea. We will also never know how far the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Ijaw, the Nupe, and other groups would have gotten in their quest to extend their reaches beyond their frontiers. To speak of the amalgamation as the accident of 1914 is to hold the view that there were no plausible geographical considerations that could have led to the emergence of the Nigerian nation in its present form. History is clear in its verdict that Nigerian constituent nationalities have long had expansionist aims that could have ultimately led to the unification of Nigeria. Nigeria was and remains a viable proposition. Nigeria's lands remain arable and superbly fit for agriculture. Its inland and coastal waters offer rich potential for agriculture. Since Lugard's time, the population has grown almost tenfold from an estimated 17 million people in 1914 to about 160 million, and this was in 2014. So it is more today. Increasingly literate and extremely creative, energetic, and entrepreneurial people. In that 100 years since Lugard's amalgamation, the riches in Nigeria's earth and the numbers and dynamism of its people have exploded. Its potential is more immense than Lugard could have imagined. Nigeria's tragedy is that its people, particularly its leaders, have not been able to turn the potential offered by the amalgamation of 1914 into enduring benefits. The amalgamation brought Nigeria's constituent nationalities into a melting pot that was intended to distill its disparate people into one united country. Nigerians have so far been able to birth a more united nation out of the crucible of amalgamation. That failure has nothing to do with Lugard or with the amalgamation. It is primarily a failure of Nigeria's leaders, especially the triumvirate that led Nigeria to independence. For all their brilliance and erudition, none of these three, Obafemi Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, and Nnamdi Azikiwe, can be called a father of a nation. They did more for their tribes than they ever did for Nigeria. They were all sadly incapable of forming a nation. At the end of their 2-decade control of Nigeria's politics from 1946 to 1966, these men had managed to create a country whose inhabitants identified themselves first as members of their regions and ethnicities before they were citizens of Nigeria. It must be considered that the three leaders of the Nigerian nation created fully functional and effective regional governments. The period of their leadership of the various regions has been unrivaled since. In terms of the real growth engendered in schools, public health facilities, public infrastructure, and economic development. As Nigeria enters its second centennial, that is from 1914, because this article was written in 1914. 2014. The question still lingers in every mind. The question that lingers in every mind is whether the Nigerian nation will make it. Will this marriage survive? There are two answers to that question. If Nigeria continues along the current path, where charlatans and ethnic jingoists jostle for power and place their interests above that of the nation, Nigeria will die. If not a sudden death, then a slow, painful death that will include bloodshed and internecine strife. However, if leaders are genuine in their intentions and nationalistic in their outlook, emerge and find a way to win the confidence of the Nigerian people, a strong and virile Nigeria will yet emerge. The challenge of nation building and the capacity to achieve true unity is best exemplified by the South African nation and its timeless hero, Nelson Mandela. The majority black and colored people of South Africa, the majority black and colored people of South Africa were victims of their racist policy of apartheid for most of the 20th century. It is easy to forget that Mandela was sent to jail for his fight against apartheid and for his struggle on behalf of the black and colored people of South Africa. After his release in 1990, Mandela began his service for South Africa. He championed forgiveness as a national principle and pushed for the new South Africa to be radically inclusive, a true rainbow nation. Mandela became a champion for the rights of the minority whites. It was not a popular position to take, and there were many black South Africans who vilified him and accused him of selling out. The task of leadership, however, is, not one that always takes the path of public adulation and praise. The Mandela that was jailed in 1963 was the leader of the Black South Africa. The Mandela that died in December 2013 was the father of a rainbow nation. Nigeria needs leaders in the mold of Mandela, selfless men and women of clear vision and strong will. Divided as we might imagine ourselves to be, our difference pale in comparison with nations like South Africa, the United States of America, that had arguably more severe challenges with national unity. We must learn from the examples of those nations. We must learn from the examples that those nations offer about how lessons from a painful past can be used to build a more perfect nation. We might be Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Ijaw, and Ibibio, but we are all black and brown sons and daughters of Africa. We might complain about dominance by certain groups of our national life. However, no Nigerian ethnic nationality has been systematically denied its humanity and consigned to second-class citizenship through laws and policies instituted by the state. In the new world order in which we live, where global conflicts are no longer ideological, but based on religious cleavages and value systems, Nigeria, more than any other nation on earth, offers the world a natural social experiment for how nations must address the new challenges of our time. I think I'll stop this one here.
That was a long read, but it put it all in perspective. Thank you very much, sir. So you've given us a bit on, if we've seen amalgamation, because we hear people say, oh, let's just share this country and let everybody go their way. We have no business being with the other people. But, from this reading, you've seen that it was something that would have happened anyway if the British had not done it. Okay, so, but we're focusing on rebranding Nigeria and the Nigerian brand. Now, going by the classifications, the sections in the book, we see the different stages of the formation of what we have today as Nigeria. So I want you to I want to ask, and Dr. Abimbola Prof would also like you to contribute to this question that I'm going to ask. Now, I want to say that since 1914 till now, for the past 112 years, the country has had several phases, right? Amalgamation, colonialism, independence, post-independence, even the Civil War. And then, the military period, post-military, where we are now. Now, in comparison to other countries that have had more stability and less transitions, how have these different changes, how have they affected the brand Nigeria?
Is it Prof taking that?
Oh, thank you. To be honest with you, if we look at it, we because sometimes you have to look at what we call face validity, and I will tell you in practical terms what that means. When you see it, what does it look like? And when you want, that's what face validity means, rather than what we think it should be or what it might be, what it could be. Some of those we are projecting, but what exactly is it? That's one. Second, sometimes you, like a man in the mirror, you look at yourself and you suddenly forget yourself instantly because you are busy doing something else. So we can see Nigeria better if we look at places like South Africa or India. And this is also one of the example of South Africa that the author also mentioned in that, and it's a very good example to address. Where are we now for where we are coming from? To be honest with you, in terms of a nation, we are not too bad in terms of a nation building. There's always a challenges of coalescing different types of people in terms of ethnicity, in terms of religion. And I also want to say this is not just in the case of South Africa example or India example. I remember continental India separated into Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, some of the based on some of the challenges they face, like the one we are facing as well. But I also want to look at successful examples. United States, we know they had civil war, they had internet conflict. And it is through this conflict that you mold the positive thing out of what you want to emerge from. Even those states that are very earlier on, I look at Britain, for example. I had a privilege of being a village where the Magna Carta, the original Magna Carta that brought Britain together, was written. The trees they sat under, yes, they sat under a tree. It wasn't a hall. The village is called Ifley, the name of the village. What I want to say is that we are young. We are just 100 years old. We're maybe going to two. In terms of the conflict that we really need to go through to birth what is a nation. If you look at what others like South Africa has mentioned in Africa, closer to us, or even Ghana, although it's more representative in South Africa, and far afield as in India, and the successful ones. As in a place like United States or UK, they all went through certain things. What distinguished them to say that they experienced a successful outcome, what we might call successful outcome, is the type of mentality orientation of what the leader sees as their roles. The extract that Ofuma just read mentioned Mandela. The same thing in Gandhi in India. Leaders do not see themselves as I need to be popular, I need to be liked, I need to be this and that. If you go to South Africa, a lot of people still don't like Mandela because they think he signed us off for national unity. It's the same thing in India. They don't like Gandhi because they think he sold us out instead of letting us have Hinduism, rather than cooperating other ethnic groups. So the success, therefore, where success we can point to, or when we can see success, and we can see success in South Africa, is when we all realize that we actually have a good country in our hands. Yes, it is made up of different parts. Can the head stand alone and say, I'm the whole person? No. The head need the hand, and so on and so forth. It's the same thing for a nation building. Nation building is always very challenging because not only do you have to bring different stakeholders together, you also have to bring within individual stakeholders. When you say Yoruba, within Yoruba, you still begin to have Ijebu Egba. When you begin Ijebu, you begin to have Ogun and this and that. That is all is human nature. So So far, we are not doing too badly because those things are coming against us. That's the reality. How do we handle those things that are coming against us? Is the challenges so that the ordinary citizen like me and you can really feel the impact of being in a nation that has coalesced into a nation. When you coalesce into a nation, you think about each other first. Forgive me, I'm a Christian, and I want to, because it's a very practical example to give. Jesus Christ said, "Let me wash your feet." Because it's only by that's what service is about, and that's also servant leadership mean. Think, what about all the citizen first before yourself? That's what make India what it is today in our history. And that's what, but of course, we always come on at the other side of the cliff. When things are good and people are comfortable, then you begin to see we humans are not content when things are going very well. You can see what is happening in the United States. They got so comfortable, and then they are looking for how to break themselves into pieces in different ways. That is what I would say. But if we want to address, finally, I want to stop here to say, how do we amend those things? We know where shoes are pinching, and let me be honest, shoes are definitely pinching a lot of people. A lot, the majority of people are suffering. Where are the shoes? What is it that is making the shoes to pinch the ordinary citizen? That's the thing we need to address. But if you throw away the baby with the bathwater, then you will not have a baby to look after in the first instance. Let's see where the shoes are pinching. And then when we get there, we'll talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So I'm going to come to you. I want to just give a little highlight on past branding attempts. Um, Good People, Great Nation, Fascinating Nigeria. What were the successes? What were the challenges?
Yeah, thank you very much, Amara. So, like I said in my opening remarks, branding is particularly something that you do to make yourself unique, to be known for something, not to be known for everything. It's also something that you do combining a set of tangible and intangible efforts to be positively perceived, and then what the Nigerian story has been, for a while, especially from the international side of things. So this Nigerian does this, then it's Nigerian nation that is doing that. A fraudster is caught in Pakistan, then it is the entire Nigerian nation that is fraudulent. Somebody is caught with drugs in an airport in any part of the country, then it is the entire Nigerian nation. Several years ago, I remember when you are chatting, when you are in a group chat with people from different nations of the world, and then somehow you identify with yourself with Nigeria, and the next thing somebody from nowhere jumps out and say, "Oh, the Nigerian prince." So if you remember many years ago, the Nigerian prince was a advanced fee fraud formula that a lot of young people were. So all of these things do not give the nation a positive perception. I don't know the last time you tried to do something online with platforms like Amazon, and then any other platform that could help you do things from the comfort of your home, but you are global. And then get to a point and you can't go past that point because you happen to just identify that you are somebody living in Nigeria. So these are the consequences of, an accumulation of negative perception over the years. And so many examples that we can give, But I guess this is the reason why the government, in their wisdom, thought that at some point they need to find a way to enhance our image abroad. Some of the articles here, for instance, Prof mentioned Aki Adeoya. Aki Adeoya was the publisher of M2 magazine, where we got a majority of these articles. In his own article, he talked about the apple, the parable of the apple, and then he talked about an apple. Apple can look good on the outside because it has a strong skin, but inside could be rotten, and you will know, So there's also one other author, Prince Daniel, that talked about the container content context, right? So you can brand the container to look good, but if the content is bad, then there's a problem, So all of these things come to fore when you then say you want to rebrand your nation. If you don't change things fundamentally, from the level of systems, then it looks like you are not doing anything. So when we were having the Rebranding Nigerian campaign and the efforts, what role did the security play? What role did the medical system play? What role did the educational system play? How do we as citizens of the country agree and embrace a rebranding effort when you are still dealing with very fundamental issues? So these are they have done the campaigns. There's a contributor here who is late now, Lugard Amuyo, who used to be the president of the Nigerian National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria. His own perspective comes from the fact that Nigeria has done a lot of internal branding before. A whole lot of things like MAMSA, the internal branding structural adjustment program, Health for All, year 2000, Vision 2020, all of those things, Vision 2010, and then you look back at the future they were projecting. That future is behind us now by 30 years. So he came from that perspective that they started from there before they then moved to the external. So you remember the good people, the Heart of Africa campaign actually went to London to try to launch it. Something that is supposed to enhance our image, you went to London. So it came down with a lot of criticisms and all that. So this is why we have put this together, because people have experts, observers, and all who should know, who have given their opinion about what happened. This is why we put this together, to capture the context, the analysis that they've made, and the counsel that they've provided. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Again, you just told us why it is important that we get. Hello. You just told us why it's important. I think that everybody who cares about Nigeria should have a copy of this book, in their libraries. And of course, they should also read it. So the book aside now, we've agreed here that we do not have a bad nation, right? Like Prof said, we just have a nation that is saddled with challenges. And I'm asking, in the face of what we're currently facing today, how can we begin to project a good nation? We're in a place where, recently our government had to send someone away because they said he was projecting division, or the guy from Jos, they had to tell him to leave the country for projecting wrongly about the nation. We're saddled with so much currently. There's mass migration, the jackpot thing, and people who are going are not, before, when, it used to be a thing of, I go abroad, I study, and then I come back. But now people don't even want to come back. You see videos like, I've turned my Nigerian passport, I'm not going back there again. Recently on Twitter, something happened, and somebody had to say, the white man had to say, I can't take immigration advice from you. You're Nigerian. And this last week, again, somebody celebrated that he got a visa or something, And a white man said, your country must be really horrible for you to celebrate getting a visa, right? The image is at an all-time low right now. What can we do? What steps can we take? I'm asking you and Prof to go prescriptive right now, right? As we see in the latter part of the book, what baby steps can we take to begin to recover or say rebrand for good? Should I?
Hello, Prof. Are you responding?
Um, Could but the gentleman was Joe Kama. Could you please mute your mic? It was really coming in and out. My dear brother Joe Kama, could you please mute your mic? I didn't hear the last part of the question. I would really want to respond to that.
Okay,
Could you
ma'am.
please repeat?
Okay, ma'am. So, apologies for the inconvenience. I was saying that in this current phase that we are, our reputation or our image is at an all-time low. And I said I would like for you and Ofuma to go prescriptive. What can we do? What baby steps can we begin to take towards rebranding positively?
Thank you. Now, and that's really the key point, to be honest with you. If what we are talking about is going to be of um, what we expect it to be, positive contribution or immense positive contribution, we think it's not just um, we are not just, it's not a statement of arrogance, but we think it's going to be of immense contribution. So for it to serve that purpose, it must be able to offer something for now, right now, or from now going forward. I will want to mention a couple of things, and I will refer you to one of the articles in this. It's really a genuinely comprehensive book. One is, why are the citizens so distressed? And distress is not a theoretical distress where you have so much and you are complaining later. No, it's just that basic things are not available genuinely for people because you can complain when you have too many things. But you can also complain. This is the bottom of the pyramid complaints that people have. One of it is security. Hope is one of the best way of keeping people hope, anticipation that what I have today is going to be improved tomorrow. It is around everything hinged upon. And as a brand, it is one of the things that integrate any brand, whether it is physical brand, a service brand, a country brand, a personal brand, or a leadership brand, or whatever form of branding. Hope is one of those things that integrates them. Hope that when I buy my whatever I bought, I'm going to get what I expect to get out of it. So I'm not going to buy a Coca-Cola that is going to hurt my throat or not minding that it's not going to be tasting as I expected. I can deal with it not tasting as expected. Now, maybe it's because of something I ate before. But if I try again, then I will change my brand. So hope is one of those integrating things. How, in the case of a country like Nigeria, the idea that I can take off from Lagos to Ibadan safely without worrying about anything is one of those things that will make me to consider my best rather than, oh, I'm not too sure, we better go early, make sure you call me when you reach mile 2 or my whatever so that I know you've reached, there's no accident, there's no kidnapping, there's no robbery, there's no this and that, hope. The second part of that aspect of hope is to trusting that whoever I have voted for will do my civic duty is to assume that this person will do what they said they will do. And when they get there, even if they are not able to complete everything they promised me, I could see them doing it. So I have the hope that if they started it, they will complete it. It's the same thing with the, like I said about the brand earlier. If it's always there, it's going to deliver these. If there's an incident where it's not able to, that's why we recall brand sometimes, because we're not. So for me, those promising and delivering, and what do you promise to make sure that basic security, basic security, because the reason why food are very expensive. Reality is many farmers cannot go to farm again. Many women can no longer go to farm. So food items that could cost X amount, it's now so expensive. Many food are, even those where it is produced, is raw because nobody can go to the field without being kidnapped or being harassed and so on. That is where I think if any politician can just focus on that rather than internal, because like you are having conversation with yourself, but you are just one person, you are voting. How about the others for whom the effect of whatever you did or did not do is going to have a practical impact? And that's the bottom of the pyramid. That's one thing that needs to be we as a brand. And there are ways of doing it. And that's what I would say, something that can be done now. How do you address the most important elements of why citizens are suffering or why there's what we call dissonance between what the leaders think people should think and what the people feel they should think because of the effect of what they have not, what they're expecting that they have not seen. That there's a dissonance between you asking me to love my country, I've not done this, I've not done that, did that, when I'm expecting it to be done. And we expect, okay, bear with these and hope for better to come at X or Y. That is what I would say in what is of immediate. How can we address or what should we be saying to the politician? Or what should the politician be doing? When I hope you come to where intellectual exercise and practical implication of intellectual exercise matters to the national politics. Thank you.
Very much, Ma. That was a really, I loved your answer. Thank you very much, Ma. So I'd like to hear.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. Just to add a bit more to what she has said, let me start from a position of a contributor in this book called Frank Evanzek, a non-Nigerian, So because she's a non-Nigerian, she will have the ability to look at things from the lens of a non-Nigerian. Yeah. And in her own piece in this book, which was pretty short, she singled corruption out as not our biggest problem. It's very easy to see corruption because it is everywhere. Yeah. It's in government, it's in private sector, it's on the streets. Everybody is trying to outsmart every other person. Yeah. So it's easy to see that. But she put a lot of blame on what she called mediocrity. So following from everything that Prof had just said, how do we get to put the right people in the right places? How do we not get to just bring anybody to come and do anything? Yeah. Very serious, very critical issues are being handled by people who are not trained or who are not experts in the things that they are doing. And these things are supposed to affect us as a nation. So how do we begin to enhance meritocracy? That you earn the position that you have. You earn the place that you are occupying. And then you are also empowered by that to give your best in the interest of the nation. So I think it is something that we need to shift from mediocrity to meritocracy, because people don't want to do the right things anymore. They'll tell you, so what's the gain? There are people out there who do nothing, who know nothing, just because they know one person here, they know one person there, and they are prospering. And everyone who is trying to do things the right way, most of them are suffering. So what's the motivation to then do the right things? Yeah. So that needs to change. Then you also have the fact that when a child is born, when the child becomes an adult, the child is a collection of all his or her experiences, influences, orientation, backgrounds. That is what the child takes into adulthood. Children grow by emulating everyone older than them, their parents, their teachers, guardians, and the society. You talked about Gen Z the other time. They grow up too, looking at the politicians and all of that. So when they become 18, what do they become? So that tells you that, who is that leader who is looking away from constructing roads, looking away from renovating hospitals and schools, and looking in the direction of re-engineering the minds of Nigerians. So that the child is born today, and by the time the child is 18 years, what kind of Nigeria will the child emerge into? So it tells you that the kind of change we are looking for is not this 4 years dash. There's something sustainable beyond, that will go far into the future. And that is not small work. That is hard work. You need to roll up your sleeves and do. And then of course, systems. If you look at part 10 of this book, you see that some of the prescriptions have said, we are not going to get there. Our image is not going to become beautiful by nice colors, nice logo line slogans and all that, adverts in your hand, stuff like that. So we have to create systems that will help us change our perception. Yeah, so.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so I'm going to ask the people that are sitting down from the party. Sir, I'm going to ask you, hello, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you, thank you for coming to this meeting. How can we, no, sir, you cannot roll it. Finish. I want to don't tell me about the book. Okay, so how can we, is it possible? You're one of the contributors to this book, sir, right? Great. So that means you also believe in the Nigerian project. Where we are right now, looking at where we are right now, what can we do towards enhancing or giving our country rebranding, basically, not just laundering our image, because we tried that in the past and that hasn't exactly done anything for us. What baby steps? Prof said hope, trust. He said we should start to look towards moving from mediocrity to meritocracy. We're looking for prescriptions. How can we brand our country? What can we do?
Thank you very much. I noted that you have laid emphasis on baby steps in terms of nation, branding, and marketing. There are no baby steps in that enterprise. For you to become a nation requires some level of maturity, and adults don't take baby steps. Nation branding, nation marketing, positioning demands intentional behavior, intentional activities, well-planned, well-orchestrated activities, predetermined, pre-designed for certain results. You don't just wake up and say, maybe because you do some media campaigns and newspapers and say you're branding. You will see your time. In one of the articles in that book, I took the position that branding is not just lip service. Branding is like the nation branding is like a company started a business. If you want to set up to manufacture detergents, you have to first of all have the idea of detergents, have the idea of other detergents in the market and the values they represent and how you can fit in. Are you starting from the low end of the market? Are you starting from the high end? Are you, what color? You pre-conceive all these things, put it in a basket, and then before you build your factory, you bring your equipment, do everything before you roll out the name of your product. Your parents didn't name you Amarachi, or was it Amaka? Amarachi before you were born. They had the intention to create a family, did everything, got pregnant, took care of the pregnancy, and gave birth to you. And when they looked at you, perhaps because of the circumstances under which you were born, or the environment, or some other factors, you see, this is God's grace. This is a marriage unto us. They didn't give you that name before you were conceived. Nigeria has to mature in terms of governance, in terms of nationhood. We are still broken in pieces as a nation. And for us to start projecting certain things, we need to get some place. Look at the war they are fighting in Iran. Why is America in that place? America wants to project force. Trump keep announcing that America is back because the power, the essence, the image that makes America what America is in the global space has withered, and he wanted to re-emphasize, to announce to the world that yes, we're the most powerful nation on earth. Look back to Nigeria. A few days ago, we have lost how many generals, lieutenant colonels, senior officers in the Nigerian army. And then our president is still sitting down and telling Nigeria that I assure you that this nation will take care of the security issues in Nigeria with every force. When the people who are going to handle the force are all dying off. So these are the things that you have to factor. If the presidency of Nigeria speaks, how many countries in Africa catch cold as it was when Obasanjo says in those days that Nigeria was Nigeria? Will Nigeria be afraid that a force from Nigeria is coming if we go to Nigeria tomorrow? Will Sierra Leone feel the same way they felt when we went to help liberate them those days? We are all over South Africa killing ourselves and getting tempted for all manner of things. Could South Africa have spoken the way they speak to us when we were among the frontline states leading the war against apartheid regime in South Africa? We need to, first of all, get our leadership first. We don't have the leadership that we as Nigerians, as you and I decide now to start projecting Nigeria before the world, we don't have a leadership that can respond duly to that. We don't have a leadership we can package as a product and say, world, these are the people we are presenting as our, in this country is the worst of us that are leading the best of us. And you can't brand a nation under that kind of umbrella. I will stop for now so that others will be able to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm just so conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, but my point would add to what you just said. Basically, when we go back to what Prof said and the other cases, Nigeria amalgamation was done as a result of, let me say, economic and political convenience, basically. For easy administration and the economic interest of the colonial masters. So the leaders at the time, Nigerian leaders, did not actually build a nation. What I mean is that the political ideologies of those leaders were more of the regional ideologies. So for us to rebrand Nigeria, I think we need to go to the basics. How do we build generation of new leaders? We need to reorient the people, our people. Look at our systems. How can we, tweak the system to make the system work for the people? And I think that is my contribution to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Would you like to complete this conversation? Okay.
So, in order to rebrand Nigeria, you have to brand yourself, like to do an individual branding. So you can't just say that the leaders are not working,
Hello.
they are not doing things the right way. We have to do things like the right way. We ourselves, we have to change ourselves. I think there was a campaign during President Muhammad Buhari's change between two things. So I think if we change ourselves, then Nigeria and we can brand Nigeria through that.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think one of the good things here is that I think almost everybody here, everyone, myself included, we actually believe in Nigeria. Like Prof said, hope, trust. I think the fact that we all believe, not I think, the fact that we all believe in Nigeria and we're still looking at ways in which things can be better, it means that there's hope, right? What remains is for us to get the kind of leaders that can instill trust in us so we can forge ahead. So, Prof, I'd like to ask any final words as we wrap up the conversation?
I think the key point that I want to make is this. Yes, you can, and it is reflected in one of my brothers mentioned about when you have a project of brand Nigeria. But before then, as a nation, we all as individual, collective, stakeholders at different point in time need to be conscious of what our contributions should be and how should we be making it towards that. Let me be honest with you. I always tell my friends, you get a leader that reflect who you are, and so you cannot really stray too far away, or an apple is not too far away from its tree. Does not. The point about that is this: we all need to start making wherever we are. This is our own contribution, and this is our not just two of us, but all the people, 50, more than 50 something authors here. And the reason why you do that is you still believe in a brand called Nigeria. Whether you are saying you shouldn't have been doing this is because you still love the country. So to all of us, I would want to say, whether within our sector where we are working, we can all make individual contributions that we eventually percolate. And if there's a major project, like a commission project, like Madam Akunle's project, it's a different thing entirely. Otherwise, it becomes superficial image making, fakery, if there is no substance to it. And the substance comes from the citizen. It is the agony, it is the sweat, it is the like and dislike, the stress and the joy of the citizen that will make up ultimately, just like any brand. You can put the advert on, you can do the billboard and this, but the substance is in the essence of what that particular brand represents. And for a nation branding, the substance of what it represents is its people, their joy, their success, their failure, their want, and their dislike. This is where we as individuals starting from our individual homes, and where we are working and so on, it is essential. How, when there is a project, we all know when we see it, we know what it looks like. We hope that this will be a noise from the ground, and will be from different stakeholders, not just specific marketers sitting somewhere in a room and designing a logo and a name and this and that. That is ultimately the icing on the cake. The real cake is how can we be allowed to make our individual positive contribution. For example, something that Ofuma said earlier, meritocracy. And I want to a person I don't want to name went to Cuba somewhere ago, and they wanted to change their Nigerian passport or get a new passport. They said they were so ashamed that when they got there, it took so long for them to get it. And the person who was in charge, he was as if they were to sign a loan. It was obvious they were illiterate. So they were doing as if you think they want to drive an aeroplane just to sign something, and it reflected to them person, but they are still in Nigeria. They were trying to say they are my people. I still have to hide their shortcomings. But the point is, we can no longer continue to have that shortcomings. When something is so bad, it gets bad and worse as it goes along. We can make a cause reflect, and each one of us will be a major contributor to that. When you point a finger at someone, guess what? 4 of them comes back to you. Everybody, and I had the privilege of, when I was in university, some of the people who were saying, if you don't do this, this will happen. Many of the things we are predicting happen. Many of them are there doing precisely what they were arguing against now. No. So if you want to do it, we all have to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Sir, please give us your words.
Right. Thanks, Amara. I didn't know we're wrapping up so quickly, but I'm just teasing. So my closing comments would be that the second portion I wanted to read, our conversations had overtaken it. The third portion I wanted to read actually dwell on the branding itself. Like we say, we want to brand a nation. The nation has a name. The name is a brand, but want to brand like uniquely. You ask yourself the question, what are we really known for? How do you answer that? When they say Nigeria, what is this country known for? When they call Nigeria anywhere in the world, what comes to their mind? For instance, it is very easy to associate Mercedes-Benz and Germany. It's very easy to associate them together. It's very easy to associate Brazil and football together, even if they are also becoming a bit distant in that. But it's very easy to associate that. So when you come to Nigeria, what do you associate Nigeria with? That is positive.
Valid question.
Yeah, so that is there's an excerpt here taken by an American author and an American marketing expert and his daughter Al and Laura Rice, trying to say that the proposition of good people, great nation did not exactly work. Why? Because every nation you go to on earth, you will see good people, and they can claim to be a great nation. So what do you say about Nigeria that will be unique? And that was how he came up with that largest and greenest could have been better. Now, what they are trying to say is, you take one thing, not many things. Because every nation that we know on earth that is strong for something also have places where they are weak. But we don't see those because they are amplifying the strength. So what is it in Nigeria that we can amplify? If we really want to go in that dimension. Is it from a people point of view? For instance, we are reputed to have a very intelligent diaspora all over the world. How does that count for us? Or do we just look at it as statistics and then we move on? Does it count for us? In the US, in Europe, Nigerians have, very intelligent people, progressive academically and all that. How does that count for us as a nation? That is from a people. Back home, we're also known to be very enterprising, very resilient people. How does that count for us as a positive narrative? Now, amongst all of the things that we export, for instance, is there one thing that is really good that is from Nigeria and countries seek it and find it? How do we project that? So there are so many areas where we can find one. We can't take everything. Find something that is positive and project it. But again, it comes down to the container content concept. You see, something good is in a container that looks bad. So it is not likely going to be picked from the shelves. Except you now do that extra work of convincing the person that what is there is good. And this is where the leaders then come to create the direction. Like the young man say, start from rebranding yourself. Yes. That is all we are all doing. And that is why this project is here. That is why we are trying to make it available to people, because there is a whole lot of nation branding analysis in this book that can actually bring you to a position of a near expert in that. Yes, exactly. So those are some of the things that we can add to what we have already said. That what is that one thing in Nigeria that can count for us that nobody anywhere in the world can fault? What are we known for? Is a question that we can all go home with.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. What are we known for? I'd like to encourage everyone here to leave with a copy of the book. Copies are available for sale there. It's an important book, right? It's important that we own one. It's important that you buy copies to gift to people. I'd like to call on the librarian. We were holding this event in the library in case it's the Agali and Temi library. I'd like to call on the librarian, our host, to tell us a bit about the library before we close.
People do use it as their workspace and the rest. So membership is on different platforms. You could register 100K annually, where you get to access the library Monday to Saturday. The library opens from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and the library doesn't work on Sundays and on any other public holiday. So once again, you're welcome. We hope to see more of you in the library. And please, before you go, make sure you pick a copy of the book at the end there. Thank you, and au revoir for now. Oh, I see.
Okay, to give us the vote of thanks, I'd like to call on Sergio Balamusi, publisher at Noirledge Publishing. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for coming to spend the evening with us today. We know that, of course, there are other places you could have chosen to be at this moment, but you chose to spend the last 2 hours thereabout with us. We're grateful. We hope that the conversations that we have had here today would further spike something in us that can help us take the conversation, which has been premised on the book, forward, and to also, spread the news about the publication of the book and its availability with the larger world. Thank you so much.